Thank you, Suha. I would like to thank Minister of Foreign Affairs for the opportunity to facilitate this exciting and interesting plenary session on blue economy, addressing inclusivity, sustainability and sustainability in economic development. I'm particularly excited because I have with me key ministers who will help us understand the linkages between blue economy and the work of various ministries. Our history, our culture, the food we eat, and our economy are closely tied to the ocean. It is integral to our well-being. Thus, during this session, we will discuss concrete actions and specific plans that will help us work to improve lives of our people. In terms of structure, here is how the session will be organized. We will begin with a video, followed by a presentation on key policy interventions, projects, and program areas. This will be followed by brief remarks from our distinguished panelists. They will offer their reflections on key priorities in relation to the blue economy. The last component of the session will consist of moderated discussion where we take questions from the floor. We will try to allocate more time for question and answers so that we can have an interactive discussion. Let me now turn to the first item on the agenda, which is the video.
The Maldives is an island nation stretching over 115 miles in the Indian Ocean, making us one of the world's most geographically dispersed countries. Our natural resources are the foundation of our existence, livelihoods, and prosperity. 99% of our territory is water, and we depend on the ocean for sustenance, livelihood, and connectivity with the rest of the world. Stresses to the ocean and our surrounding environment have a direct impact on our livelihoods and well-being. The concept of a blue economy takes this reality as the basis for delivering sustainable and inclusive growth. The focus is on delivering sustainable development that takes into account our profound dependency on natural ecosystems while ensuring the benefits of development are distributed equally among all regions and segments of the country. Sustainable management of the environment is essential to secure livelihoods and the health and well-being of our people. Proactive action is needed to address land, marine, and air pollution. There is a critical need for an effective and sustainable system of waste management. A more comprehensive approach to biodiversity and ecosystems management is crucial. Climate change is an existential threat for the Maldives and impacts every facet of our lives.
Mi kunya ki algon me mi council ta ka emme bodu bure ka emme mi do ka mase ka ta ka hamme henne algon me ge femmer galon femmer galon me kunya talang mase ka ta ke bakure ඒකතරෙන් ප්ලාස්ටික කි අල්ගොන මේ පාලේ මිහුන මාලේ මේ ෆොන වනි කොම්මේ අෆ්තය දෙදු එම එබේ අල්ගොන මෙන ප්ලාස්ටික් බෑග බ සලාම වේ දෙහෙන්න මේ දගඬුගේ බාවත් අල්ගොන මෙන සලාම තිනුවේ දැන් අන්දා කුනි අල්ගොන මෙ බොඩුගේ අන්දා.
Our focus now is on eliminating obstacles for the expansion of renewable energy while offering incentives for investments in the sector. Erosion, flooding, and overexploitation of groundwater has salinized our freshwater lengths. The majority of our inhabited islands, with no alternative sources for fresh water, face an urgent need for investment in sustainable water supply. Over the past 2 decades, governments have invested heavily in developing sewerage infrastructure in the islands. 100% of households in Malé are connected to a sewerage network, but this figure drops to just 76% in the atolls. Untreated sewerage is currently discharged into the sea. This poses health risks along the food chain and adversely impacts the ecosystem. Transport infrastructure is crucial to economic growth. However, establishing a reliable transport network is challenging and costly in an island nation such as the Maldives. There is poor connectivity in the outer atolls and between different modes of transport. Air transport is expensive and not adequately linked with the ferry systems for intermodality. Small and medium enterprises make up the majority of registered businesses in the country. While SMEs can help creating a more resilient and diverse economy, this can only be achieved through creating an enabling environment. SMEs are in need of capacity development, technology transfer and exposure, as well as finance. This has been addressed to some extent through the newly created SME Development Finance Corporation, or SDFC. Generating gainful employment opportunities for all is a focus area in the blue economy. There is a need to match skills with available jobs in the market in order to increase employability. A comprehensive training and skills development program is essential in order to increase labor participation rates, especially among women and youth.
Thank you. I hope the video gave you a good sense of what we are going to discuss today here. With that important context, may I now invite Mr. Shuhad Ibrahim from Ministry of Economic Development to deliver a presentation that outlines some of the key policy interventions. Mr. Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Welcome to the second session of the Maldives Partnership Forum. Before I start, I have to apologize in advance because I'm a bit under the weather, so my immune system is not as resilient as the policies I'm going to discuss. So we had a look through the video and through the discussions earlier in the session as well about how important the ocean economy is to our country. I mean, after all, 99% of our country is ocean. But the ocean plays a really important part in our economy, in our income generation, employment, and our culture and our way of living as well. The way of living that we talked so much about in this forum, the Jazeera Wantaka. We want to maintain that the administration wants to frame the policy agenda, the development agenda around this concept. But at the same time, we also need to strike a balance between our development needs. So the blue economy concept. Different people define it differently. But for us over here, the blue economy concept entails an inclusive economy that is diversified and resilient, an inclusive economy that is which has the economy for SMEs to thrive, includes vulnerable groups like disabled and women as well. And then we want to give more chance for the youth as well. We want an interconnected economy as well, which is also driven by renewable energy. And all of this to work together under a model where environment is sustained and conserved, and it's streamlined into our policy decisions. So let's have a look at our policy initiatives. I'll try to make it as short as possible so that we can have more time in the panel discussions. So a diversified and inclusive economy. One thing is we're moving towards a more diversified economy. 70% of our economy largely depends on tourism. So how do we go about diversification? If you look at it now, we're trying to create more diversification options within the tourism sector. The guest house business, the local tourism is actually one good example. 10 years back, we didn't have a single guest house, but the numbers now, 10 years later, is over 500. So guest house businesses is an integral part of the local domestic community, which feeds into the local community through aggregate demand, creating jobs, thrive in trade, and as such. So it's an important agenda of the administration to promote local tourism. As Mr. Amir has mentioned, we are tripling our tourism budget, and a good chunk of it would go towards promoting guest house tourism in the Maldives. Additionally, The development of the SME bank, the portfolio would give priority for the development of guest houses and guest house entrepreneurs. Another area is fisheries. Right now, our tuna catch does not really result in high value addition. Less than half of what we catch is just exported or sold in the local market as stock. So we want to move towards a greater proportion in value addition. So we're looking forward to investments and upgrading in infrastructure in this area. But at the same time, when it comes to diversification, we're looking into tap into additional fishery activities like mariculture. Like we're looking forward to we look forward to partner with other agencies in developing hatcheries for mariculture development, and I believe we have a few going on right now at the moment as well, and it's actually a good area that we could expand on and look forward for opportunities in. In agriculture, the administration is in the process of setting up an agriculture corporation because we want to facilitate market access for domestic producers. The main thing is we do produce a lot here, but it never reaches a market and it gets disposed. So we want to create markets with tourism facilities. We want to create markets with other domestic consumers around the country as well. In doing so, we also want to enable farmers to receive additional materials, equipment, and also the technical know-how on how to develop and actually expand an agriculture industry in the Maldives, which is actually very important because we import almost all of our food, and we import almost all our food, and then it links up with our food security policies as well. And we are also in the process of setting up a Maldives Marine Research Institute. It's an area that we want to partner into and actually look to see if we can get technical help in this area. Moving on, we want to look into some new industries that we could tap into. Information technology is one. Our demographic is largely skewed towards the youth. So most of our youth is very tech savvy, and then the Maldives in this region, I think, has the highest penetration of telecommunication and internet services within this region. So there's potential in this region, and we have several policies in place to go about with it. So first is we want to upgrade our digital infrastructure and actually moving towards a digital first policy within the administration as well. So just this week, we recently announced a housing portal, which is all done through online, and which would provide a lot of ease to previously it was done through just file and paper, but we're not going to be needing queues and stuff for now, and like we're moving towards digital services in all our administrations, and I think it's an area we require technical assistance and funding for infrastructure upgrades. So in addition, we do have some proposed projects, which is a STEM education center, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have in plan to establish an IT park where it offers incubation services to tech startups and mentoring services and training as such. We also have plans to establish a national data center to streamline data services and data delivery services through the government, and also setting up a government-owned fiber network. We also want to promote growth within the country as well, and an important part of it is the SME sector. And as mentioned earlier in previous presentations, the government has set up SME Bank, which is a short form for SME Development Finance Corporation. In addition, we have an SME industrial park, which is in the works. The industrial park will be concentrating on light manufacturing works, repackaging, re-exporting stuff, and then offering factory space for small individual SMEs, which previously didn't have that access. Also, we have the Maldives Fund Management Company, which was recently established, and we are hoping to integrate this into the economy through different fund managers. For example, there's the tourism fund management portfolio as well, which we are hoping to get unproductive and unused beds into the market. And also, it's the fund management company also comprises a part of the renewable fund as well. So this is an area that we could actually work on as well. And then we want to work on an SME office complex, which offers one-stop services to SMEs through office space and then incubation and other services. So generating jobs. The administration is in the process of establishing job centers. Right now, we don't have any job centers, so we don't actually have a proper count of the employment numbers as well. So it's actually done through a survey, and the numbers skew back and forth around 7–8%, but we actually do not have proper numbers. And job centers would be the focal point for those, especially in the outer islands, when they're looking for jobs and when they need to forward their skills forward to prospective employees. So along with that, we'll be establishing a web portal through which we can match job seekers and potential employees, potential employers. Additionally, we are looking forward to increasing women participation in the workforce. This year, in the administration, we rolled out 6 months maternity leave. And in addition, we are looking at trying to improve transport services and accommodation services for women workers, especially in resorts. In terms of skill development, we have a training fund set up. Hopefully, for example, there's one for the tourism as well, where we hope to, it's a joint effort between resorts, and this tourism fund would enable us to train prospective employees for the tourism sector. Moving along to enhancing connectivity. As I mentioned earlier, connectivity, both digital and physical, is important for blue economy to function. One is maritime and air transport connectivity, I think, which we have talked quite often in the forum so far. We want to set up a reliable transport network, possibly based on renewable energy if possible, and which is affordable and is reliable as well. So in addition, we want to set up a similar transportation system in the Greater Malay region as well. We are also in the process of relocating the commercial harbor in the Greater Malay region, which right now the current harbor is congested, and we actually move it to an industrial area so that we can reduce congestion and increase better, we can promote better environmentally conscious, how do you say, lower the pollution and as such. Yeah. In addition, we are moving towards digital and e-governance, which we already touched upon already. Yeah. And then renewable energy. In renewable energy, we import a lot of oil, but most of it goes into power generation, quite a big chunk of it. And we are looking forward to partnering in investment in renewable energy sources. Right now, the aim of the administration is to move towards 70% daytime peak load power to be generated through renewable energy sources. And it's an area we hope to partner. It could be with a government venture model or even a public-private partnership model. So the government is open to different business modalities to implement this plan. That right now, the government is also proposing building solar PV hybrid systems in 100 inhabited islands over the next few years. And we are also looking forward to strengthen the regulatory framework within the power networks and feed-in tariffs and net meter mechanisms. Yeah, my colleagues thought this was a spaceship, but that's actually a solar panel in a resort.
With that, Mr. Ibrahim, I think we should also start wrapping up.
Yeah. Almost there.
Thank you.
So finally, we want to look up a resilient infrastructure and sustainable environment. So we are working on solid waste management. Reduce, reuse, and recycle will be the motto of the administration. Waste is not seen as waste, but as a monetizable resource and a valuable resource. So we're setting up regional waste management centers. Currently, we have 3 across the country, but we want to move it more towards, we want to set up more in several regional centers. So one proposed project is establishing one in the Huadu Atoll, which is the second largest urban center in the south of Maldives. And it's also an area that we hope to partner with you colleagues as well. And of course, minimizing single-use plastics. We've got a campaign underway, and more ministries have joined up, and we're banning single-use plastics, and we hope to get private sector on board as well. So water and since I think we touched up on it earlier in the presentation. And climate resilience, yeah. So we want to preserve the natural flood protection systems in the Maldives. We had quite a few large-scale projects that have been undertaken in the Maldives, but with not much consideration to the byproduct of it. We've seen mangroves and coastal ridges damaged, and then we've seen other like vegetation being completely wiped out. But under this current administration, we'll look.
You have about 30 seconds to
okay,
wrap
yeah.
up now.
So,
sorry.
All right. So some of these policies include like strengthening the we're strengthening the Environment Protection Agency. We're giving more autonomy to the agency as well, and then we hope to actually increase the capacity in the policy making within the environment sector as well. So we hope to look forward to partnering with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim, for that informative and important presentation. Let's build on the video and the presentation and continue our session. Our first panelist, Minister of Economic Development, His Excellency Ustaz Fayyaz Ismail, is going to be instrumental in implementing our Blue Economic Vision. As you heard in the presentation, in the past we have focused mainly on tourism and fisheries sector, but moving forward, diversification of the economy is going to be important. Blue economy covers a broad area. Can you speak on some of the key priorities?
Thank you very much. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maldives and a very good morning. What we are trying to do has been very much covered by my colleague Shuhad just now. So I'll try to give you a general idea of where we are headed. Maldives has been practicing a blue economy except for the last 50 years. We have been living off the ocean, and we have been practicing sustainable methods for our livelihoods. However, during the last 50 years or so, we have sort of moved away from that a little bit. Until quite recently, we Maldivians felt that we were a very poor nation. But I would say, I would like to in fact compliment our former president, President Nasheed, who has instilled in us that no, in fact we are a very rich country. We just need to mobilize the resources available to us, which is again mostly to do with the ocean. When you define blue economy, we say sustainable, resilient, inclusive. I think I would like to add one more phrase to that, especially based on our island nation concept that our administration is promoting in the Maldives, which is contentment. We want our lifestyle of harmonious lifestyle to be maintained while we are trying to achieve development and economic growth. In terms of taking forward the blue economy, we have to understand that the people of Maldives want their creature comforts to be available to them as well. So we need to, that is why we are embarking on a very ambitious infrastructure development plan, which Minister Aslam has in very detail explained earlier. Whilst doing that, our goal is to ensure that the environment is protected, it's held in the highest level, and all considerations in the development will take into consideration the protection of the environment. Moving away from our current economic activities, which is mainly tourism and fisheries, which as has already been mentioned, quite partial to external shocks and other uncontrollable factors. What we're trying to do now is actually to grow on the current significant advancement that we have had in the tourism industry, specifically in order to increase our revenues, which I think one of our participants, the IMF colleague, which raised the concern about the deficits and the revenue issues. We believe that we have potential to quickly grow the tourism industry because we already have the assets in place, we have the beds in place, we have the natural assets, and we have the brand name in the world. However, during the last 10 years, because of the political instability that we saw in the Maldives and also the deterioration of the democratic and human rights issues, we have had a sort of a negative impact on the image of the country in terms of tourism promotion. But with the change in the administration, with the change that we are protruding to the world, and which I believe has been accepted by the international community, I think we are poised to make a real important comeback on the tourism sector by increasing the promotion and the revenue from that. Diversifying is our main objective. That will take a long term, which again we will be utilizing mainly the ocean, the marine resources that we have in terms of aquaculture, mariculture, and also value addition to the fisheries product. One main goal, I'm trying to copy Mr. Aslam on this, trying to get more time. Diversification, again we are basing on the marine resources that we have. One crucial aspect to that, which again as Mr. Aslam has mentioned earlier, is the transport network which we want to instill so that our people can stay in their own homes and yet enjoy the benefits of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Fayaz, for helping us set the stage for us to be on a sustainable development trajectory where people can live a happy and a content life. It is my pleasure to turn to His Excellency Minister of National Planning and Infrastructure, Muhammad Aslam. Minister Aslam's role is fundamental in accomplishing government's ambitious agenda on blue economy. These are all cross-cutting areas that needs effective planning and coordination for swift delivery. Minister, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks so much. I think I've spoken a lot in the previous session. A few things that I did not speak, and I think which is very important for us to point out. Maldives, this is a fragile ecology. It's a highly dynamic system, very sensitive to global, climatic changes. It is obvious that we will have a very challenging future. But we are not to leave this nation. We are to stay here. Some of the challenges come from our way of life. Waste management is one thing, is one of those problems that we have in this geography created by ourselves. Mainly because over the past couple of decades, the economic growth, the lifestyle of people have changed. Habits haven't changed. We were not ready for this new challenge, waste management. There were times 3-4 decades ago when I was a child, we used to go to the beach, no flushing toilets, nothing to throw away. So waste management, including wastewater, is a major challenge we have. This is something we need to address properly by people who know how to deal with it. We've been trying to do, just few kilometers from here is Tilafushi, open burning and burn all sorts of things. Not the best way to do things, but we have to deal with that somehow. So this has to be properly addressed. We need to deal with that. The other thing is, Maldives has coastline to land area ratio, land area to coastline ratio 1:2. So lot of coastal, coastal length to be protected. Whether you protect this in India or in China or in Australia or anywhere in the world or in Maldives, the unit rate for protecting the coastline is the same thing. 1 meter of shore protection costs the same thing, whether it's in this country or anywhere else. Around $3,000 per linear meter is what it comes to now. How do we deal with this? There are naturally occurring resilient features in these islands. How do we, bring them in? Do not destroy these, naturally occurring resilient features when we develop, and live on these islands. Very important. For this, I think it's very important for us to understand how the system works. And it's good that I have seen, and the Minister of Fisheries is, on a trajectory to expand this marine research and do an institution. And for that, I think partners here, I can see, certain countries here from where there are a lot of people who study these things. The more we know about it, the better we can be prepared for it. So, invite them, encourage them to come here, even help us to establish that institute, I think is very important. These are soft things people normally don't see. We talk about projects, we talk about making harbors, we talk about, building hospitals, but, studies, understanding this. These things, I think these are low-hanging fruits. We can easily pick them, and they can be very useful. So I would encourage, people who have that sort of capacity, to send their professionals, academics to the Maldives, and they can actually make a big difference. Thanks so much. 2 minutes already up.
No.
Done.
So you don't want more time?
Well, I just stopped. Thank you.
Well, it's apparent the Minister has a clear vision for
I'm sure
our
the
future.
audience have a lot more to ask from us.
You can speak more during the discussion session. I'll give you more time. But it's also apparent, Minister, that you have a clear vision for our future development. It is also reassuring that the infrastructure development plans incorporate social inclusion and environmental sustainability. As a global community, we are in an era where we have made great strides in digital and technological advances. The role our next panelist plays is critical. With e-governance comes cybersecurity issues, and our e-blue economy is certainly not going to be immune from the challenges. Minister of Communication, Science and Technology, His Excellency Muhammad Malih Jamal. Minister, can you offer your reflections on the theme of blue economy and how it interacts with your mandate?
Thank you, Ambassador Tilmiza. Well, good morning. Well, information and communication technologies for development is not a new concept. Nations, big and small, have demonstrated the vital role of ICT in inclusive, sustainable development. We are pleased to note that this government has established a Ministry of Communication, Science and Technology to provide the enabling policy of regulatory frameworks and governance structures for accelerated national development fueled by traditional as well as emerging technological advancements. Our vision is to be the Estonia of the Indian Ocean. We shall put in place a 3D approach to inclusive, sustainable, and resilient national development, which will cut across digital society, digital economy, and digital government. We plan to establish international standards-based national governance of IT and nationwide digital infrastructure to drive the modernization of government and governance, encourage digital innovation, develop a digital-ready workforce towards a digital economy. Maldives, being an island nation, faces several challenges in service delivery owing to its geography. The requirements to connect these small island communities into one digital society is central to our vision. Therefore, we seek to expand and upgrade the national computer network of Maldives to connect regional and sub-regional hubs by submarine fiber optic cable, and to ensure that every public office in every inhabited island is connected to a future-ready national framework. At the heart of the national computer network is the National Data Center. The existing National Data Center was established some 15 years back. There is an urgent need to upgrade the National Data Center to today's standards to facilitate digital transformation of government and governance, drive decentralization, transform data management, and to provide government-owned cloud service to government agencies. As we embark on this journey of digital transformation, a key concern is that of information security, assurance, and resilience. We seek to establish a national data recovery center with its sites in the north and south of Maldives to provide backup and business continuity for government services across the country. And finally, we seek to establish technology parks as a central strategy for economic diversification, foster a culture of innovation, support startups, accelerate decentralization, and enable digital economy in the Maldives. In particular, we are looking to develop Formula City as a single island atoll known for its innovative youth as the Silicon Valley or the Silicon Island of the Maldives. The technology park at the heart of it will provide high-tech office space for remote working, business process outsourcing, micro enterprises and startups, higher education and training campus, incubation and entrepreneurship development programs. We look forward to connecting with you and during the rest of this forum to discuss and develop these initiatives towards projects of mutual interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Considering our dispersed population, your work is going to be important for us to thrive in a sustainable e-blue economy. Not just digital connectivity, but physical connectivity is also equally important to us. Unfortunately, Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation, Her Excellency Aishat Nahula, is not well and she's not able to join us. She said she will try to join later in the afternoon, so if you have specific questions, hopefully you'll be able to see her. Minister Fayaz has very kindly agreed to step in and offer some reflections on the theme of blue economy and how it interacts with the mandate of the Transport Ministry.
Thank you. As mentioned by Minister Aslam earlier in the presentation today, a critical part of the growth of our economy is dependent on a trusted, credible transportation network, which currently we don't have. Some of the main challenges that we face is, of course, the geography of the Maldives, together with the high costs associated with marine transportation. However, we are seeing today new technologies that we will be able to mobilize in the near future, which will bring down the cost of transportation and also the environmental impact to the oceans by these vessels. So what the government is working on at the moment is to, as Minister Aslam mentioned, we need technical expertise in order to come up with the plan on this transportation network, which will be cost effective and which will achieve the goals that we are trying to do. The connectivity is important because we have a dispersed population, and with our vision to create the Jazeera or the island nation vision, which means that the people will continue to live in the islands if they choose to do so, and there will not be any forced migration either through coercion or by not providing necessary public services, which has been done in the past. What we're trying to do is create this transport network which will revive the economy, and we have seen this work a few years ago, I think in around 2009, when we established the first transport network, which was a very basic ferry system. We saw people from one island baking bread and taking it to the other island. So it created a significant economic activity at that time. Unfortunately, the system has not worked. It has collapsed for various reasons, and we do intend to revive that. Also, another aspect from the transport side is the establishment of the domestic airports, which again Mr. Aslam mentioned earlier. Our vision is to ensure that there is a availability of an domestic airport within 20 minutes speedboat distance for all the islands, and we are more or less there, and we need about I think 5-6 more airports to be developed, and Mr. Aslam is actually putting that in the. I will let Mr. Aslam also.
I think I want to tell you why we tried this transport thing in around 2009, and it seemed to be working in some areas in the beginning, and then it stopped. There were a number of reasons. One, the model we chose to achieve this was public-private partnerships which came with cross-subsidizing elements in it. And people who came to provide the service didn't actually come with the intention to provide the service. They came here to get an island to develop a resort. I mean, that's the most obvious business in Maldives. So they came to do that. So intention was wrong. Two, the network was not properly designed. So the routes taken were not the most efficient one. Three, wrong vessels were used. I give this example often. You cannot use a truck to, ferry or passenger people. A truck is there to transport goods. A bus is needed for that. A bus is for passengers. A bus is a bus, truck is a truck, but they both run on 4 wheels and engines. But they have different purposes. So we use the wrong vessels. We use donis. Donis were built for, go fishing. So not very comfortable. So we have learned some lessons. If we do it properly, it will work. Definitely. There's no reason why it should not work. So we're going to attempt it again. Now the intention of the government this time is that this will be a public investment. And once it takes off, and that's the experience we've seen from everywhere, once it takes off, once people are dependent on it, then you can privatize it when it is needed. So to begin with, when there is no business model, people, they come with the wrong intention, it doesn't really work. So really wanted to highlight that why it did not work then.
Thank you, Minister Aslam and Minister Fayyaz. It is clear that transport will play an important role in our future prosperity. We just have to find the right vessel, the right boat, or the dhoni. We also have to ensure that there is a balance between connectivity and environmental protection and its sustainable use. We have already heard a few times importance of economic diversification during this plenary session and even during the earlier session. Minister Fayyaz also, in his earlier remarks, touched on this. Fisheries is our second largest industry, and this sector, fisheries and agriculture, can play an important role in diversification of our economy. Also, women, they play a key role in this sector, but there are numerous challenges that they face. Our next panelist will address some of these issues. Minister of Fisheries, Marine Resources and Agriculture, Her Excellency Zaha Wahid.
Thank you, Your Excellency Tilmiza. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Maldives is an island nation surrounded by water. The economy and well-being of the country is tied to the health and wealth of the natural environment, and primarily the ocean, which accounts for approximately 99% of Maldivian territory. We are a small island developing nation with a large, vast ocean. For sustainable development, food security, connectivity, and livelihood, stressors to the oceans and the environment will therefore have a direct impact on the communities. The Maldives economy is dependent on tourism, but when it comes to rural communities, it's the fisheries sector and the agriculture sector which play a key role. Our fisheries is the cleanest and the greenest fishery. We need to ensure that the catch is tradable because that's the main livelihood of our communities. As Minister Aslam has pointed out in the earlier session, the wealth of the people in the southern ocean, southern part of the Maldives is more wealthier because these are fishing communities. So if we want to improve the condition of the people, we have to ensure that we are able to promote fisheries as well. Maldives has been talking about diversifying our economy for the past 20 years. And one way of diversifying is establishing a mariculture industry. I would like to acknowledge with gratitude the assistance from the World Bank to establish a mariculture hatchery and a training center, and also to roll out our program into farmers or aquaculturists who will be working in their communities and producing aquaculture goods. So I would like our donors to pledge to our cause and try to support us in establishing more farmers within the industry. We are looking for establishment of regional markets because due to the dispersed nature of the islands, we need suppliers and markets, and the production of marketable quantities of agricultural products in atolls to be dispersed. As Aslam has highlighted, we need the transport network to be in place because the high cost and unreliability of transport, uncertainty of load space, food spoilage, poor market information, and organized marketing system are necessary for the agriculture sector to thrive. The government is committed to facilitate the ways in which the farmers are able to sell their produce in its freshness in order to generate high income and to reduce waste. The government has pledged to develop agricultural centers which cater to the needs of the farmers. As earlier mentioned by the Economic Ministry, we are looking into establishing an agricultural company which could play a catalytic role in this sense. The proposal is fully aligned to the government's pledge and also complements the agricultural sector goals and policies, as it is specifically emphasizes value chain coordination by ensuring the competitiveness of the agricultural sector. And in doing so, we are self-sufficient in some of the commodities and we can go further. Another area which we would like to look into is in the agricultural sector is the solar-powered climate-smart irrigation. Water is limited resource in the farming communities, and electricity is also limited when it comes to the farmers' communities which are further out from the local island population. So we would like to look into solar-powered irrigation, which will allow the farmers to effectively increase their output and equally safeguard the vulnerable groundwater lenses. And furthermore, we would like to see in the fisheries sector a continuing perception of male dominance has led to a degree of gender blindness in the fisheries sector. and has meant that the post-harvesting and trading activities of women are often overlooked or neglected in fisheries development and management. And training and assistance programs are often aimed at men. Despite the high social importance of these fisheries within Maldivian culture, there is only limited understanding of women's contribution to the fisheries. Research in NAFR in 2016 and a recent scoping study in Gemunafushi have indicated that women are very active in one-by-one supply chains, responsible for processing and selling tuna products. Despite the important role women are playing in the Maldives tuna fisheries, they are facing issues of poor access to market information, unreliable buyers, and limited institutional support. However, information communication technology could be used by women to directly market and trade their tuna products. Aligning this with the financial technology and digital banking could further increase women's economic empowerment. The proposal is aligned with government's strategies and policies on blue economy, where women are empowered and recognized as equal economic actors, especially in the island communities. The government's pledge to develop island processing plants, encouraging small-scale processing and value addition to fishery product, is also fully aligned and related to this proposal. And I do not need to elaborate more on the Marine Research Institute, as Aslam has passionately voiced his beliefs as well, because we both come from a research background and we feel that there is a real need for the Research Institute to be established. And I look forward for your contributions in this sense as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Zaha. It is clear that agriculture will be playing an ever-increasingly important role in our development efforts. And it is also loud and clear that you will be paying close attention to inclusivity. As we continue to sustainably develop in a socially inclusive manner, and which is on a sustainable development, as we continue on a sustainable development trajectory, which is socially inclusive and while protecting our natural resources and environment, we have to be ready to face the inevitable challenges due to climate change. Minister Hussein Rashid, we get to benefit from you as our last speaker. You have the opportunity to tie together some of these different themes and ideas we have been discussing during this afternoon. With that, I give you the floor. Minister of Environment, His Excellency, Dr. Hussein Rashid.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Is that on? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. My job has actually been made very easy by my colleagues and previous speakers. As you notice, everyone has actually spoken about environment. You cannot speak about Maldives without actually speaking about the environment. I'm sure you have already noticed that. So what I have to say is really very little in addition to what people have already said. Ladies and gentlemen, the Maldives is an island nation surrounded by clear, beautiful blue water. Yes, the blue economy actually derived from the blue water surrounding us. That's why we're talking about a blue economy. The economy and the well-being of the country is tied to the health and wealth of the natural environment. The ocean accounts for approximately 99% of our territory. Similar to other small island developing states, the Maldives is dependent on the ocean for sustainable development, food security, connectivity, and livelihood. Stresses to the ocean and the environment will therefore have direct and indirect impacts on sectors such as tourism, fisheries, marine transport, infrastructure, and the overall development of our economy. our economy is tied to the blue water surrounding us and its biodiversity and natural resources. The concept of blue economy takes this reality as the starting point for delivering sustainable and inclusive growth. The focus is on delivering economic development that takes into account the profound dependency on natural ecosystems and the need to ensure development dividends are distributed equitably among all people, regions, segments, and sectors of the country. The size, limited land area, and the remoteness of our islands make us extremely vulnerable to small tidal surges, water shortages, and coastal erosion. As such, key initiatives under this goal include establishing flood mitigation mechanisms and infrastructures in the islands identified most vulnerable to the climate change. In addition, food storages centers appropriate for storing food for climate change events are really necessary. We have also established and ensure availability of food during the disaster situations. The restoration and reconstruction programs will be important for the rich and unique marine biodiversity of the Maldives is a significant part of our tradition, livelihood, and is the bedrock of the Maldives economy. The government aims to introduce a comprehensive reef restoration and protection mechanism and the name Jazeera Island Reef, which will ensure that the reef protection projects are carried out sustainably and in a way that preserves and protects the natural states of the island. The Maldives rely primarily on imported fossil fuel to meet its energy needs. As much as 94% of our energy is derived from imported diesel. Only 6% is derived from solar energy. So you can understand the vulnerability we have. And similarly, we have one of the major problems we are facing is actually waste management. The new administration has inherited a lot of waste from previous administrations, which has not actually dealt with. Similarly, it is our pledge to provide water and sewerage for all the islands during our term in office. So there is a huge need for renewable energy as well as need for waste management and water and sewerage systems. And these are key areas for in the environmental sectors. I will be available to speak to anybody one-to-one or bilaterally. Thank you very much for coming and really appreciate your participation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Hussain Rashid. It is clear blue economy is about advancing 3 pillars of development: social, economic, and environment for a prosperous and a sustainable future. And yes, we have a lot of ways to get rid of, more than one way.
Hello.
This is a challenge. There is a challenge, what we are undertaking to embark on a trajectory where we have sustainable growth. The challenge is immense, but I'm certain that our distinguished panelists are up to the task. With that, I'm going to open the floor for question and answers. We'll collect a few questions and then let the panelists answer. Ambassador of Norway.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us to this very important conference to discuss how we can partner with the Maldives in sustaining the positive and constructive political and economic development that's taking place. Maldives and Norway share a lot of things in common. First of all, we are small in population but big in oceans. And we both are dependent on sustainable use of our ocean for our economic development and our welfare. Secondly, and we think therefore there are many experiences, mutual experiences we can share and discuss. Secondly, we strongly believe in the multilateral approach to some of the global challenges of today. This is not working so well. In this respect, I would like to also highlight a few things that could be of interest to you. Our Prime Minister, she has taken the initiative to establish an international high-level panel on building a sustainable ocean economy. This is a panel where also nation states are participating. Secondly, she is inviting to our ocean conference in Oslo in October, where the Maldives have been invited, and I hope that you will participate. Thirdly, we have taken an initiative through the UNEP to have a new resolution on marine litter, which I also hope that I trust that the Maldives will like to partner with us in pursuing. But let me say that we have also a few things that we are already cooperating with the Maldives on, and there are a few things that we could continue to develop. Let me start with marine research. Norway is funding a marine research vessel that is regularly calling on the Indian Ocean. It is operated by the FAO, but the technical competence is coming from the Marine Research Institute in Norway. So I will encourage you to get in touch with the FAO to see whether that research vessel could also call upon the Maldives in the near future. As you know, we have already supported the Maldives through the Small Island Development Organization, particularly in the sustainable energy sector. We are also substantial support of the Green Climate Fund, which the Maldives are also benefiting a lot. And we have recently launched initiative together with the World Bank called the Pro-Blue. The aim of this fund is to achieve sustainable economic development in healthy oceans. I will definitely encourage you to call on the World Bank to see whether you can also benefit from that initiative. Coming to the private sector, I know that there are already some interest here in waste management, talking to Maldivian institutions. There are interest also in solar panels, floating solar panels, that could be further strengthened. We have also, being an ocean nation, quite a lot of experience in sustainable maritime transport, and I think that there's a hope that we could also develop that further, that some of our ferries are actually now run electronically, so there's a potential there. And of course, aquaculture is also an area where the private sector in Norway is quite active, and probably that could also be beneficial to the Maldives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for that intervention. I have on my list Germany, Pakistan, UK, Kuwait Fund, EU, and Egypt. If you have a question, we will collect a few questions, but if it's an intervention, if you can please keep your remarks very brief, close to less than 2 minutes, I would say, or closer to 1 minute, rather. It would be great. So, Germany, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I have a question on the blue economy. You mentioned your high dependency on fossil fuels. You mentioned the important role of tourism. Given that does the government have any concrete plans to, let's say, put more regulatory efforts or requirements in the development, for example, of new resorts, that they have to be minimum requirements of the use of renewable energies? Because at the moment, most of these resorts run on basically diesel. And I think it would be very important if there would be more regulatory efforts by the government to minimize the dependency on fossil fuels. Thank you.
And I'll take a few more questions. Pakistan?
Yeah, you have talked about the blue economy, but Maldives sit astride the most crucial sea lines of communication in the Indian Ocean. And if you establish two major deep water ports, one in the north and south, all your dreams, which we have talked about digitally, tactically, they can come true. But I have not seen anybody talking about establishing of a port. This is my first question. And then my second question is that you have a very huge EEZ, and poaching take place, millions of dollars worth of fish is taken away from your waters by the foreign countries. You do not have the wherewithal to monitor your EEZ, and at the same time, you do not have the wherewithal to exploit your EEZ apart from fish. So what are your plans for that? Because that will help your blue economy. These are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more question. UK?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have one quick comment. On the 8th of June, it was World Oceans Day, and this year's theme for World Oceans Day was gender and the oceans, playing to two Sustainable Development Goals, gender equality and life under the seas. It was very nice to hear the Honourable Fishery Minister's comments on the importance that the government is giving to the under-acknowledged role of women in the fisheries industries. It's also been nice, and I'm sure many people in this room would commend the other references we've also heard to the government's intention to prioritise the economic, social, political and other empowerment of women. Thank you.
Thank you for the comment, Ambassador. With that, I will hand over to our panelists to answer some of the questions. The first one to the Environment Minister on the renewable energy and the resource.
Thank you very much. I think I'll answer this question. You know, that yes, Maldives has very high dependency on fossil fuel, and our plan is actually currently our commitment under the Paris Agreement is to have 30% of our peak load provided by solar energy by 2030. And the new administration, you know, we think that this is not really ambitious enough, because like 30% is not really providing any incentives, real incentives. I'd like to tell you that as much as $1 billion rupiah or a 30 billion rupiah budget is spent for subsidizing electricity prices. And as much as 94% of our energy is produced using diesel. And approximately 10 to 15% of our GDP is spent on importation of fossil fuel, particularly diesel and petrol. And it is in our national interest to reduce the usage of fossil fuel. So the new administration, we are aiming to provide at least 70% of peak load in each island by, not the total energy, but 70% of peak load capacity in each island by within the 5-year period. And we're working on it. We have started in the north, and we are working in the other atolls as well. There's been promise of some funds, but during the last administration, this fund has been, you know, stopped. We like to this, you know, programs to start again, but we are targeting to achieve 70% of peak load within the 5-year period. I also like to tell you, if we are to invest in solar energy, we also need to rectify the problems that we have with the grids. The grids are really old and doesn't allow further expansion. Therefore, we had to invest in the mini grids that we have in each island as well. So we assume that it's going to cost around $5 billion rupiah, right? 5 billion rupiah to have a reasonable electricity or energy system for which will be good for the next 10 years. So there is a huge need for that. And over 1 billion of this will be for renewable energy. And for instance, if I can have that 1 billion rupiah, which we spend on fuel subsidy, fuel subsidy annually, I can rectify, I can meet the commitments for renewable energy. So as simple as that. So to answer the question relating to tourism industry, yes, there is no legal requirement for tourist resorts to, there's no mandatory requirements for tourist resorts to adopt renewable energy right now. But we would like to encourage them. And if we are to have the legal requirement, then we have to think about that, how effective that will be. But that's a really good thought. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Minister. And I understand Minister Aslam would like to add to that.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very important question. Tourism resorts consume like 10 times, they use 10 times more energy than an inhabited island. An average installed capacity on a resort would be somewhere in the range of 1 to 2 megawatts. And on an inhabited island, we are talking about 100 to 200 kilowatts. So they consume a lot of energy. And already resorts, there's a regulation which requires them to go for wastewater treatment. I don't see any reason why we can't do this on renewable energy. I think we must receive this very positively. I think this is something we should do. So I can assure you, as the Minister of Planning in the government, I would strongly advocate to get a thing like this. Obviously, the investors have their investment problems, all of this. But, they have good return of investment. They cover their investment in 5 to 7 years. So why not? Why not? I think it's a good idea. I think we should really explore this and do this.
Thank you. Minister Fayez, you wanted to take the next question, right?
To answer the Pakistan ambassador's question, in fact, we are currently, I believe next week there will be a TOR announced to recruit a consultant to look at both the 8-degree channel and the 1.5-degree channel to see the possibility of a transshipment bunkering facilities to be established there. So we are working on that. We have had a few studies done earlier which does not seem to be making sense at the moment when we look at that. So we are trying to revisit the entire thing. And it is also our wish that if this is feasible, we would like our partners to come and assist us in developing this transshipment facilities. To answer your question on the illegal fisheries, yes, that is a concern to us, especially not only illegal fisheries, but it is also of concern to us the perseining, which is done legally. We are a pole and line nation, and we are at a very high disadvantage because of that. While we are practicing sustainable methods of fishing, we would like the entire world to move towards pole and line fisheries, in fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zaha, would you like to add something to that?
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to highlight that a few nights back we were celebrating the World Ocean Day. We are working with our fisheries industry. And on that night we got 84 fishing vessels has already pledged to collect the plastic which they take to seas and bring back that to the port. And the whole fisheries industry, all of the companies operating right now, has taken the pledge as well to decrease the marine litter which is disposed by the Maldives. So I think that is a good initiative and a good step towards our part being responsible to our oceans. And I look forward to the Fridge of Nations visit so that we could collaborate with the research which we are doing, and that I'm very thankful for that. And in terms of aquaculture, there are opportunities for private sector to participate within that arena. So it is an area where investors can invest, and the Economic Ministry has doors open for that. So I would like private sector parties to come and invest into aquaculture too. Thank you.
Thank you. We are almost at the end of the session. I obviously don't want to keep a room full of hungry people here, but I have a few more requests on my list, so we'll just take one more very quick round of questions. EU would like to make a quick announcement. After that, I have Kuwait Fund, UAE, Czech, and ISTB.
Thanks. Do you hear me? In response to the request for support of the Minister of Environment, I would like to underline that the EU has always been a very strong partner in the areas of both climate change and environment. And I would just like to illustrate that by the fact that even today we are going to sign a contract promoting, with a contribution of 5 million euros, the reduction to diesel reliance on 15 to 20 islands in your country. Furthermore, and more importantly, I would say, I'm happy to announce that provided that some minor technical issues are settled rapidly by your government, the European Investment Bank will be able to disperse 45 million euros again in the area of solar elements. So these are good news for you, but this is only a start. We hope to be able to do more in the coming years, in particular through the European Investment Bank.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for a very generous announcement. We will continue to keep a strong partnership going. I have Kuwait Fund, who had a question.
Thank you so much. We've got 2 inquiries, but one statement as well. As my capacity as the executive director, a member of the executive board for the International Fund for Agriculture Development, I look forward to seeing new projects coming up to our board this year or as soon as possible. And rest assured, you have our full support on the board on behalf of the state of Kuwait and our alternate, the United Arab Emirates. Having that said, on putting back on my Kuwait Fund hat again, I would like to state that Kuwait Fund is quite keen and interested to get some information on the waste management project, and should there be any requirements for a full feasibility study, Kuwait Fund is willing to consider extending a grant for for the preparation of the feasibility study. I'd like to pass the floor to my colleague, Engineer Ahmed Al Mujalham, Chief Engineering Advisor in Kuwait Fund.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I just want to make it short. Actually, after listening carefully to the sessions, the morning session and the afternoon sessions, I sensed that, you know, in my last 30 years of experience in projects, in different kind of projects with Kuwait Fund and all over the world, I discovered that the most important kind of projects is how to connect people together. So if you want to develop one area, you have to get there first, which is I'm talking about transport sectors. That's having said that, also I look at the ICT as one form of transport, which is also connecting people together. All that also, you cannot neglect the environmental issues in these kind of projects. So I read somewhere in the documents that the government of Maldives They are tending to make a comprehensive study of environment. I just suggest to the government that if you consider a full-fledged study of a transport, combine the ICT and the environment issues together. Because anyone, if we go 30,000 feet above and look at Maldives, the first question comes to your mind, how these people are connecting to each other. So transport is very important. That's only my remark. Thank you very much.
UA?
If you were to
there's
allow
one more.
me,
Okay, sorry.
just one
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
part. As well as with regards to SME support, Kuwait Fund, one of the facilities that we extend is lines of credit to development banks as long as they are owned 51% and higher by the government. So should any requirements for SME finance through a local development institution, we do that as well through lines of credit, or also as a refinanceable loan. Thank you.
Thank you. UA?
Thank you very much. Just today, actually, we had also another team visiting two projects already are on developing the Muvaro Airport and Vilana Airport. So this has already been supported by UAE, working with Maldives. But I would really interview actually on the renewable energy projects, which really we see it's really very important and fundamental program that we should really considering. Of course, as you mentioned at the beginning about region and sub-region, I think is finding a cluster approach is really important. You already has started some programs here, renewable energy, but also I really have another experience on the other Caribbean islands and Pacific islands as well. So I think in the renewable energy, already we have received a number of feasibility studies from your government. Your president was in Abu Dhabi last April, and really we are looking for reviewing these projects. Other hand, actually, I would like to agree our colleagues from UK about women empowerment, especially on the fisheries and tourism as well. I think really have a high potential here on these two sectors. And UAE already is working part of the Arab Coordination Group. I think number of colleagues here are part of the members, the Saudi Fund, Kuwaiti Fund. So they have already this mechanism where they can just co-finance some project together. Thank you.
Check.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, first I would like to congratulate the authorities of Maldives for successfully organizing this partnership forum. And definitely all speakers, not only in this panel, the previous as well, for excellent contributions. I have maybe two questions. The first is whether we could have all presentations, because we have received quite extended documentation, but still in some of those presentations I discovered a number of very useful information. It would be great if we can have it and eventually share it with our authorities. And then the question, Minister, of national planning and infrastructure. It is about your vision of building, you call it maritime transport or transport network. I would call it public transport system. I would call it public transport. This is how I understand the objective of what you are aiming at. But in order to be able to work with it, we would still need to have more detailed information. You said that you are interested in having international partners. The Czech Republic is not necessarily an island country, definitely. We are a landlocked country, but we have quite a good experience with building our national public transport systems. And I would say that this experience could be of some use to your plan. So it would be great, and including those messages you included in your presentation, if we can have it, so that we can work in a more systemic and hopefully result-oriented manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll make those presentations available. I have one last question, ISDB, and I'll give the floor to the ministers to quickly answer some of these questions. And we can continue the discussions on the sidelines. And if you have specific questions, you can meet the ministers bilaterally. And after that, I'll give 30 seconds to each of the ministers to make their closing remarks.
Which question? No. Okay. Oh, there's one more. There's one more.
Thank you. I don't think I was seen earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Now, obviously, as an island nation and a small island nation, we've been listening very carefully to your presentations, very eloquent presentations. And we are keen to see where we can partner up and support. And of course, like the Maldives, we are highly dependent on our seas and on our sustainable seas. And there are 2 points which resonate with us. The first, made by you, Minister, of the link between the blue economy and knowledge or skilling. And I think this has been our experience as a small country, where we need to have people who are skilled in various sectors, be it in ocean governance, in port management, maritime law, and other areas. And possibly we can see a little bit where we can support over there. The other point, which is important to us, is, and I think was made by the presentation earlier, was the importance of an interconnected blue economy, an economy that brings together all the various aspects of it. And certainly this is also our experience, and in this regard we have been working in Malta, as possibly in other EU member states, on an integrated maritime policy, which not only brings together in an integrated fashion the various aspects of it, but it also drives us to bring all the economy forward. And I'm referring to our ship registry, to our ports, to our aquaculture, e-maritime, blue pharma, and various other areas. So that's the question, therefore, is there a strategy that is an integrated strategy, or that is trying to bring all these aspects together, that you are envisaging at some point? Thank you.
Before I go to a next round, which I'm getting a lot of requests from the floor, and if you don't mind staying through lunch, I don't mind staying either, but I think people are hungry as well. So very quickly, I'll give the floor to Minister Aslam to answer some of these questions, and then we'll see how much time left. We don't have any time left, really, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Well, the intent is to integrate things, and then nothing happens in isolation. People are not in isolation. The things that we do are not in isolation. They are all integrated. And this is kind of an exercise which doesn't really comes to an end. It is something that will keep on evolving. And as we go by, we learn lessons. We leave behind the ones that didn't really work, and then change them and keep moving on. And we would be very much keen on learning from the experience of Malta, as my eyesight is not so good. Okay, all right, Malta, not so bad. We would be keen to learn from your experience, like you being an island nation. Of course, we have our differences, the much smaller size populations. Yes, but the intent is, yes, we will integrate all of these, so nothing will happen in isolation. So if something seemed to be, somewhere isolated, not connected to the rest of the things, yes, it'd be good. I mean, we will point it out among ourselves as well, but if somebody, picks that, that'll be good that point it out. I mean, I think, the remark on the renewable energy and the tourism sector, I think it's something, it's just ringing my head now. Okay.
Thank you. I have a few more speakers on my list, but we really don't have any time because the next session starts at 2:30. 2:30, and that would barely give you 1 hour, 15 minutes for lunch. So do you want to continue, or do you want to continue the conversation along the sidelines? What do you think? Sidelines? Yes, so I have on my list, just to let you know, Austria, ISDB, Saudi Fund, Max Planck. Thank you for your interest, and I think we have set the stage well for further collaboration going forward, and we can continue the discussions during lunch, sidelines, into tomorrow as well. Thank you very much.